So this is a quick video to go along with the course review for 1105 Digital Imaging 1. I'm going to fly through this and as quickly as I can. Also refer to your own notes from class and also the assignments that we've done, as everything in the test and everything in the review would have been covered already in assignments and in class. 5 stages of workflow: shoot, upload and renumber, write a backup to a hard drive, format your cards, and make selections. The word workflow is very much a generic term, and in time you should be building on your workflow to include editing techniques. Raw editing we'll be talking about before long, and also sharpening your images along with a good few other things. But that basic workflow is where we start. Imagery size and resolution, well, DPI and PPI, dots per inch, or PPI, pixels per inch. Make sure you know that. Designers would very much see or would speak in terms of dots per inch, the old printing term, but in terms of image quality, we need to not only know the resolution, 300 pixels per inch, but also the dimensions of an image, and the big tell is the image size number in the box up here. 103 megabytes on that particular image. Image rotation, we've spoken about 3 tools for doing that. The crop tool will allow us to rotate an image, and the image rotation tool also will allow us to do that. Image rotation down here, we went to the arbitrary setting, and as we did a rotation, it leaves these triangles at the edges, so the image either needs to be recropped again, or those triangles need to be filled after the fact to get rid of those triangles like this. Okay. The other tool that we've spoken about is the free transform tool, and I'm going to come on to that again in a minute in the review. Image contrast and brightness. So brightness, how light or dark an image is. Contrast is the trickier definition, the rate of change between highlight and shadow detail. The rate of change between highlight and shadow detail. A high contrast image or a hard image, and you can put hard in brackets, an image where there are very bright highlights, very dark shadows, and a rapid rate of change between the two. A low contrast image or soft image, soft in brackets, an image where there are no really bright highlights and no really dark shadow areas, and the rate of change between highlight and shadow is very shallow. The curves tool is a great tool. It allows us an amazing amount of controls. It's been called the most powerful tool in Photoshop, and the route to get there is very important: image adjustments and curves. And when we use the curves tool, what we're doing is adjusting the rate of change between the highlight and the shadow detail. Without seeing the image, what I've done here is to make the shadow areas darker, the highlight areas brighter. For the test, the correct use of the curves tool is what we want to look at. So you'll need to know how to get there: image adjustment and curves, and make sure that it's on light, not pigment, on light here. And let me see if I can move this over. First of all, we're going to take the center of the curves tool here, and we're going to move it either up or down to make the image lighter or darker. When we make an image lighter, there's a tendency for the contrast to become less, and so we want to increase the contrast again. Shadow area, if I bring that down, you can see the contrast increase in that photograph, and automatically the curve up here at the highlight end, and I just tweak that a little bit. The goal is to have a nice smooth curve in here. So the correct use that we're talking about is a 1, 2, 3. We're going to adjust the mid-tone to make the image lighter or darker. We're going to adjust the middle of the shadow end, and again we're just going to move this up or down, and then we're going to go to the highlight end and move this up or down. There are a lot of other things that we can do with curves, but as our start point, that's all we need to know right now, that 1, 2, 3. Free transform tool allows us to do many things, but if we're doing a composite image, we're building an image out of multiple other images, we can start using the free transform tool. So with this, I'm going to drag this image onto this image. They're both the same size, but if I go edit, free transform, make sure that you add locking this chain link to lock in the aspect ratio, and I can reduce the size of that image, move it around, and I can rotate that image in there as well. So that's just simply the tool. And when it comes to your test, think of the times when you've used this tool, and specifically our composite image assignment, and also our working portfolio cover page assignment as well. We're both using the free transform tool. So composite image, we just touched on that. Think back to the assignments. Layers, an image made from multiple layers could be our definition. And as I've dragged this image of the leaf onto the background there, if I go to the layers palette, we can now see that there are two layers. The layer that has got this lighter gray tone is the one that's active. So if I want to make an adjustment, any kind of adjustment to that image, it has to be locked on to that particular layer to be able to do that. I'm in curves, and you can see as I adjust my curves tool, it's making that image lighter or darker as we go along. Design project process. Number one, we created a new file, file new, and on this we set the resolution. Let's move this box over to the left so we can see down here. Pixels per inch is what we want, which is the resolution down here, and 300 at the output size is what we use as a kind of baseline standard. And for the purpose of your working portfolio front page, it was a document 8.5 by 11 inches, and we set that to 300 ppi. You leave RGB as the color, 8-bit as the bit depth, and we'll talk more about that later on, white as the background. Hit create, and we've got that new document there. We need the rulers switched on. The rulers are already switched on here, but if they're not visible, view, rulers, and as I toggle back and forth there, that turns them on and off. And when I'm on the move tool here, I can grab a line, a guideline from the edge, whoops, and that can be a guideline in the center of my image. Doesn't look quite in the center, but it should be. Okay, let's go back and select a picture next, and let's see what we can find here. Well, let's choose this picture. We want to drag a picture onto that background, but first of all I want to resize the photograph so I'm not overloading my document ridiculously. So image size, I know that the background image is 8.5 inches wide, so I'm going to have my photograph 6 inches wide so it fits into that frame. I'm going to add a stroke. Edit, stroke, well, hang on, let's get on the, yep, I've got to put my marching ants on there first of all. Edit, stroke, and for this size image, 5 pixels. If I click on the color box there, my color picker tool is going to open up, and I've got my web only colors selected here. I can select black, hit OK, and that's going to give me the color for this stroke. It's 5 pixels, and I'm going to locate it on the inside. With that, I can hit OK, and I've now got a stroke around my photograph. Picture is now ready to drag onto that background, so I'm going to use the Move tool, drag off of the toolbar at the top. I'm going to hold my Shift key down as I drag this across and let it go, and it will center the image right in the center of the frame. That line doesn't look like it's in the right place to me, but it should be. Okay, next is going to be the text tool and horizontal type tool. I'm going to click right on the center here, and I've got my text centered here. So as I type now, it's going to type out in both directions. Working portfolio. Was the name, and the design process here, I'm going to change the font style to, there we go, let's go here. And I can now use my move tools to adjust the position of the font. Down at the bottom here, there was another box of text. We were saying that we didn't want to have too many fancy fonts together. So I have just a very simple font here. And just simple contact details on here. And once we've written that block of copy, we were changing the size of the fonts accordingly. So let's bring up the name bigger, and the college name can be a little bit bigger. I think the last thing that we did on this was to add a drop shadow that I've not done yet. And so I'm going to go back to the photograph here, and right at the bottom, FX, it's just out of view, but right at the bottom here, add a drop shadow. And my kind of regular start point for the drop shadow, opacity 75, angle 120, and the pixel distance, spread and size is 15 for all, and we've got a preview of what the shadow is going to look like here. Hit OK, and if I enlarge, you can now see that I've got a drop shadow on that photograph. So that's our basic design process. We were saving that as both a PSD and JPEG. PSD will preserve all of the layer information there. Benefit and use of a JPEG. Well, JPEG, Joint Photographic Expert Group, is the name. And make sure you know that, but that's going to be a compressed file and therefore much smaller when it's saved. PSD, Photoshop document, is going to preserve all of the layers, like number 13 here, a TIFF file, tagged image file format. It was an early default file type, high quality format, so that could be opened on multiple different graphic design platforms. And in the early days of digital photography, there were a lot of different types of files produced by different camera manufacturers, and they wouldn't all be opened on the same graphic design software. And so the TIFF file became a standard for that. Dodge and burn allows us to lighten or darken a part of an image on, let me see, make sure I'm on a part of an image here. Just a selected part of an image. So by using the dodge and burn tools to burn a part of the image is going to make it darker, and to dodge a part of an image is going to make it lighter. I'm running out of time on the video here, so I'm going to fly by lasso and feathering. We set the feathering, we use the lasso tool first of all, where we draw around an area, and we need to have a pixel dimension set, and that 120 means that 60 pixels in one direction, 60 pixels in another direction is going to be where the fade is going to happen. And if I use my curves tool here, as I make an adjustment, you can see that there's a graded edge there that's set. Layers and layer mask was another assignment that we worked on. Our standard, let me see if I can open another picture to demonstrate this. And it was the same concept for all of the uses of the layer mask that we did. First of all, you have an image. You're going to duplicate the layer, hit OK. In the layers palette, we can see now that there are two layers exactly the same. But if I change something on the top layer, for this I'm going to do a spot color. So black and white. I can adjust the tonality of different things here, of the different colors. Hit OK. If I add the layer mask, and if I leave my pointer over anything in Photoshop, is going to come up, add that layer mask, and it will allow me to brush. I'm out of time, but hopefully this will help.